You guys ready? All right. All right, everybody, welcome to the podcast. This is a very special roundtable artist roundtable episode. We are here at the home of Amber and Nate Musser, who they just gave us this beautiful dinner. And now we're going to talk a little bit about art. On the podcast today is Josh Bommer, Rachael Goodman, Alvin Chiu, Nate Musser, and Amber Musser. All artists, musicians, creative people, and the idea for this podcast, I think, came from Amber. Yeah. She said that she asked me if I thought this would be a good idea for a podcast, and I was like, yeah, it's great.
Nate and I had so much fun doing your podcast.
Yeah. So did I. It was a good time.
Yeah. It was a great time.
You guys extended me such hospitality, and I think I was here for 5 or 6 hours to do a 2-hour podcast. Yeah, we had a great time, and I was really glad that we were able to come back again and do this. And so the focus today is really just to talk to people that create things and artists in general, and how we approach our art and anything that's related to being an artist.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So do you guys want to just go around real quick and just kind of say what kind of stuff that you're into, and just so everybody knows your voice and who you are and what you do?
Sure. Starting with Alvin. I'm Alvin. I've done a bunch of stuff, ranging from animation to music to documentary filmmaking. Blew glass for a little while.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Painting, right?
Yeah, painting. I do whatever I can, just because I don't know. I hate getting into like creative funks, so whenever I do get into a creative funk, I usually try to find some other outlet to.
That's awesome.
Where did you do glass blowing?
So there was a guy up in Ogilvy. I think he's still there. He's like their head glass blower, but my dad knows him through work, and quite a few summers ago, he was just talking to my dad about glass blowing. He's like, if you ever want to learn or anything, just let me know.
That's awesome.
And so my dad told me about it, and I ended up apprenticing him throughout the summer for one summer. So like 3-4 months, I would go out every weekend, every Saturday at like 5-6 in the morning, because you gotta imagine like it gets super hot inside those buildings.
Oh my gosh!
So he's like, you don't want to work midday.
Yeah.
So we get our work in early in the morning, get off at like 10:30,
Nice.
and so I did that over a summer, every weekend, and it was a blast. I mean, it wasn't all that good. But,
Yeah, but still.
and most of my stuff that I did end up making is elsewhere. I just gave it all away.
And so most recently, you were working on a documentary? I think we talked
Yeah.
about that a little bit earlier.
So me and my brother are currently trying to finish the documentary. The documentary is about Chinese tradition of naming. And so what it is that every family has a poem. And what happens is that every Chinese character within that poem correlates to one generation of that family. So whenever a child is born, the parents will, go through their poem, find that generation. They'll choose a different Chinese character and match it up, and that forms our full name.
Wow.
So it's kind of like a way of not only knowing who you are within the family, but it kind of gives you a sense of meaning or a guiding light to your life before you take off.
Wow.
So my brother found out about it probably like 15-16 years ago, talking to our grandpa. Grandpa passed away a few years after. He started talking to him about it, and so we kind of thought that knowledge of our poem and the whereabouts of it kind of disappeared with him. But talking to different family members throughout the years, my brother found out that our poem might still exist somewhere over in China. And so I think like 5 years ago, we decided we'd go and take a trip back to the homeland and try to find our poem. And so, yeah, we documented everything going.
And you were successful?
So we found something.
Okay.
No spoilers.
Somewhat,
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, sorry. I get
So I have a
excited about
question.
the story.
What's your full Chinese name?
So, my Chinese name is Jiu Xin Wei. So the first part of our name is our last name, our family name. The second part is the generational character, and the third part is the Chinese character that my parents picked out.
What?
And so my name means to do good, in
Nice.
a sense. And so the scene is like the connecting the generational name that both my brother as well as all the other males in our family share. The girls also shared their own generational name.
That's
Say,
cool.
say it again, slower.
So it's Jiu Xin Wei.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. You always be Alvin to me.
Right.
Mostly because I can't pronounce that, but I think that's really cool.
And I have to say, it was this is awesome, but it was so funny when we were standing over here and you and Rachel realized that you haven't met each other before today,
Yeah.
but that you're both from the same town in Canada.
Yeah, and we live
Yeah.
here now.
Unbelievable.
We were both born and raised in Saskatoon.
Mm-hmm.
Super random. End up here, or maybe divine.
So, Rachel, tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got here.
Oh my God, those are two different stories.
We have no time limit.
Okay, so what I do, well, I'm really trying to sort that out right now, and I'm having a hard time putting my finger on it, and I probably never will actually be able to do that.
I think
And
that's the curse of most artists, right?
That is, absolutely. So right now I've got my iron in a few different fires. I have, I started a little studio space in downtown Wheeling that eventually will be open for other artists or freelance people to come and work in.
Which is really exciting.
It's
It's such a
super
great
cool.
concept.
Well, and
to have
things
a
like-
community space for art.
Yeah, and things like I would love to have like really good coffee and like healthy
Yeah.
snacks. Like
What about a juice bar?
that. I mean, I would love a juice bar. I can't manage a juice bar because let's just be honest. Like I
Outsource
can
the
barely
juice bar.
manage washing the floor. Like that's gonna be an issue for me. So, but I can do like I've thought about just stocking it with like they have these like pre-made smoothies you can buy and like super healthy blends for your coffee. So like little bulletproof upgrades and stuff like that for your coffee. So having that sort of in stock and just like a little bit more alternative ways of thinking too. So
Yeah.
things like I have like yoga mats in my studio, so
Yeah.
you can like go upside down if you need to reverse
Just-
your blood flow.
Totally.
So, but this is how I work, so that's why it's sort of organically coming together like that. And then, so that's part of it, but so my background originally was in graphic design or communication design, but I was always like super illustrative in my style. And so, like I probably should have been a painter, but I didn't have like the resources to go to art school as a kid or really the community to support and to do that. So I did it as an adult. I went to art school as an adult and I did what was practical, which was communication design, because I could get a job. And then I just still found a way to make art out of it. And so I'm kind of in between this place between like my own creative fun art, and then I like pay my bills with doing really cool different kind of branding and commercial art, and I do some murals and a little bit of everything. And then and so right now I'm working towards eventually I want to be able to just do my own stuff and get paid for it, and then do freelance art like projects that I like. However, I have to say, like, I really do like the projects that I'm working on.
Yeah.
So it's not even like, I don't know, it's not work to me. It's still fun, right? So I don't know. It's all good. I just know that, like, it'll grow organically.
And you just started a clothing line for yoga too, didn't you?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the third iron in the fire. I started, it kind of came out, so I'm very, like, illustrative, and I do a lot in pattern. I end up working a lot in pattern work, and it just lends itself naturally to textiles. I don't think that I'm, like, a textile designer by any means, but it just is, it's so natural, and so much of my own personal inspiration comes from, like, I said the word alchemy earlier. Like, it's just really, I've been delving into even, like, weird, like, the energies that go beyond what we see, I guess. And that's been that's been super inspirational lately. So, like, generational lines and that kind of stuff's been coming out in just my regular just doodles, and then those have been turning into yoga wear patterns.
Amazing.
They're fun, yeah. So, like,
great.
thank you. They're coming along. So
it sounds like the different aspects of your life all kind of get thrown in the pot. So your interest in yoga and clothing and your art, they all kind of bounce off of each other. And I think that's when we create the best artists, when you're combining multiple interests that
absolutely
things are firing on all cylinders.
Well, we were talking earlier about, like, band and music art, and, like, I'm not musical, and, like, I appreciate, I mean, you can hear me belt because I like to sing, but nobody else would like to hear me sing. You know what I mean? And it would be, like, horrendous for me to try to design something musical. I did do your guys' logo.
Yeah, she
Amber
did, and it
Maids
was
with.
beautiful.
Or, like, little cover or whatever, but like, that would just be horrendous. Like, that would be, like, really hard for me to do music stuff.
Speaking of music, Josh, musician and clothing and art. So take it from there.
Okay, yeah. Let's see. So I do have quite a bit of overlap with her. So I went to school for graphic design. I got there because when I was in high school, I would meet with my guidance counselor when it was, like, you know, getting close to, like, what are you going to do when you're going to graduate, that kind of sort of thing. And I always pictured myself going to an art school. I always pictured myself probably ending up somewhere in something like animation, even though I knew a lot about it in, like, theory from, like, watching, like, behind the scenes specials and things like that. So I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I would love to, like, draw that stuff. So I would meet with these guidance counselors, and they would say, well, you like art and you're going to need a job, so you should go, at that time it was commercial art, so you should go into graphic design. And I'm like, you know, okay, because you're the guidance counselor, you know, that.
Totally that's how I ended up.
That sounds right. I mean, like, you
You
can't.
both have the same looks on your faces.
Yeah, at the same, like, on just like on that base level, you can't argue with it. Yeah, that logic. Yeah, I see it. So I followed through with that. I ended up going to school for graphic design. I went to a 4-year school, got a BS, and while I was there, and this should have been my hint that I was kind of in the wrong place. I would do all of my graphic design stuff, but, you know, we would have these electives, and we would have our requirements, and then we would have, like, these electives, and I would take, like, the requirements of painting, I would take the requirements of drawing, those things, and when I was done with them, I would just go on to, like, the next one and the next one and the next one, and until it got to the point of where I ran out of them, and so I was making classes by arrangement with professors.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, so it still was not clicking. I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna be a graphic designer, maybe, you know. And then part of my graphic design degree, we had a class in illustration, you know, that I loved that a lot. So that should have been another clue for me, but I didn't quite catch on because I was still like, they said I should be a graphic designer. That's what I'm gonna do, you know. Yeah. So then I get out to the real world.
Can I ask you a real question real quick? Did you think that graphic design was going to include drafting? Because
Mm.
I did. I wanted to learn how to draft.
Oh yeah, no, I
And, like,
I
do things
actually
by
didn't-
hand.
Yeah, I didn't think anything about drafting. Though later on, I wished I had kind of learned things like CAD
Yeah.
because I realized like how
Rachel knows
cool CAD is.
Cool cat.
Yeah, it's super cool. So no, I didn't think about drafting, partially because my brain will steer clear of anything that has math in it.
Just like oil and water, just over.
Right. Yeah, I think I might have a touch of dyscalculia, or however you say it.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's like dyslexia, but it's with numbers.
Wow.
Because I can never do math. Like I can't understand it. I can't, I understand basic math, but I can't do anything past like division easily. I have to really work hard, like on even like pre-algebra. But anyway, yeah. So I get out into the real world, and I spent several years working as a freelance graphic designer, and that was okay. And in that time, I would do my own projects, still painting and creating things that I wanted to, and I my contracts had kind of like tapered off, and I realized I had to do something else, so I started finding work with bigger corporations and like more in-house stuff. So I worked for Giant Eagle's corporate office in Pittsburgh. And I worked for Dick's Sporting Goods, places like that. I worked for like some sign companies in Pittsburgh. But what started happening was like, I think I spent like 3 years at Giant Eagle, and I was just, I just hated it.
What kind of stuff did you do there?
Well, what I did was not technically graphic design. I would be pulled on occasionally to do something, but I managed their circular for a particular brand of theirs, and my day was just filled with clipping out like chicken breasts and placing them in these tiny little boxes.
Yeah, right.
And nudging, doing like kerning and leading and stuff like that on these tiny little prices and things.
Right. So naturally, this is not going to light up your eyes in the morning. You're not going to wake
No,
up and say,
detail-oriented stuff is
Get me
not
there.
for me anyway. I'm super big picture.
And that's
So,
We should
ridiculous.
sure.
I need a big picture friend.
Yeah, no, seriously. You're amazing with the little
Shit.
details. Absolutely.
Yeah, I
And
spend a lot of
spending
time
on it.
looking at my work with my eyes squinted.
I spend a lot of time in rabbit holes.
Yeah, I just stare at it with my eyes squinted and see like, is it coming together the way my brain pictured it or not?
Right.
I don't want to look at like every little tiny mark on it. I just want to look at the overall thing.
But what's interesting to me is that both of your finished products are not dissimilar. They both are polished. They both have detail. But you come at it from such a different perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really, really
yeah. And
That's
that
cool.
makes sense. Just kind of we each figured out like a roundabout way to get there.
Precisely. However it works for you.
Yeah. So I started hating it, and with every job I took after that, I hated it more and more and more, because
Yeah.
then what happens in that world is if you can't get an opportunity to prove yourself
Yep.
as a designer, then they just look at you and
You
they
get
say,
pigeonholed.
oh, you do this. So I was always doing production work, which is what that was called. Yeah, so I got to the point of where I was. I mean, for other reasons, I was getting really depressed. I have issues with depression. So I just got to the point of where I was just like, I can't do this anymore, and I had kind of sunk really, really, really low, maybe one of the lowest places I'd ever been. Because I had to go to the hospital, and during that period, it just like out of nowhere, I was just like creating my own art. Like I would just work and I didn't care if I stayed up all night doing it. I just loved it. So yeah, but as far as my personal work goes, it's pretty illustrative in nature. I'm very interested in identity. I'm very interested in archetypes. So I do a lot of stuff involving like famous characters, pop culture characters.
Your
basically.
your work from the Poe show was amazing. I loved it. It was
I got a lot of good feedback on that, and the funny thing is I almost didn't put that in. Like, I had to force myself to take it. Yeah, because it wasn't done.
Oh.
It wasn't. I couldn't. Like, I worked on it up until like the deadline, and I was just like, I can't. And I just had to. I was just like, you got to just do it.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of good feedback on it, so I'm glad I did it. But now I know the person who is buying it, and they're gonna let me finish it.
Oh,
That's
see?
good.
There's
That's
a perfect
good.
arrangement. Do you two ever feel like that when you have your stuff in shows hanging? Do you ever just have trouble letting go of a piece and saying like it's done?
Everything.
I want to exhibit everything you put out. You're like, oh, but
You can always do more.
Well,
how about you? Is there a point where you stop tweaking it, or do you ever really stop questioning yourself?
well, yeah, I get to a point where I don't want to see it anymore. I just want to move on. Like,
I think about you in
but-
that palm painting.
yeah, like that
So
thing I
remember your
chewed.
process.
I chewed, like, I mean, it was like not really for anyone but me, and it's just like you chew over it and you're finally like, okay, it's done. Like,
Yeah.
and I guess the way I
love
look at it is that I put something out there and I'll say it's done because I just don't want to work on it anymore.
Yeah.
And yes, there could always be something to tweak, but I don't want to do it, and I just want to move on and move past it and learn from it and like
Keep going.
going.
Alvin, does it keep you up at night? Like, do you really feel like there's stuff that you have out there that people have, you know?
Oh yeah,
like,
for sure. And that's like one of the things, like, as I was working on my first studio album, and I was like mixing and mastering everything. And in the mixing stage, I would tweak and tweak and tweak and tweak. I would go through. Yeah, and that's like one of the things that I heard before I started on the process of mixing and mastering was like people like, just don't do it. Like,
it can be
as
forever
an artist,
process.
like
you have to let go.
like obsessing over your own work, and like you're gonna tweak it to death just because like you want it to be perfect, but at the end of the day, like the little tweaks that you're doing probably not going to make that big of a difference to a majority of listeners, right? And so that's actually like one thing that my mom was like, what are you doing? Like, you've been working, like, you've been doing what you've been doing for, you know, I think I had mixed for about 3/4 to a year.
Wow.
I mean, I was learning on the way, so it was kind of
Yeah,
like a
that's
slow
true,
process.
yeah.
True, too.
Yeah.
It's
It was a
kind of
little
journey
slow
through the
process, but near the end, she was like, "Yeah, like, what are you doing?" And I like, and it really like hit me because I would go through the day of mixing. I would, you know, tweak little things here and there. And then at the end of the night, you know, I would bounce all the songs out, and then I would go sit in my car because it was the best set of speakers that I had at the time, and I knew that they would play fairly well. So I would sit in the car, had notepad out, and be like, and listen to everything.
Yeah.
And as I was going through, I was like, all right, I gotta move this instrument from this song up like 0.2, 0.3 decibels. Let me tweak this down. Like, let me just cut the high end just like a little bit more. And yeah. And literally, like, I know that I'd probably gotten back to certain points and different layers of the mix, probably where I had it like months before.
Yeah.
I always had a rule early on when I started making films that however the movie was, when I showed it in the public, that's the movie. There's no going back and tweaking it because I felt that I only have so much energy in a given day, in a given life to devote to something. So for me, I thought I can go back and start reshooting scenes or re-editing or remixing the sound, or I could always tweak it more. And especially, it's hard because when you watch it in a crowd of people, you see it differently than when you're watching it at home.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
the mistakes that I notice in public, I desperately want to go back and fix it, but I think I could spend 3 months tweaking a movie that everybody's already seen.
Right.
Or I can start working on the next one, learn from those mistakes, and move forward. So, you know, I pretty quickly just had that self-imposed rule that once it's shown in public that I have to move on.
I think it's a great rule because I think that creativity, moving forward, is
Yeah.
a fantastic force of life. Creativity left stagnant turns to frustration.
Yeah, and I didn't want to work it over and over, and so I met with my friend Corey today, and he's like, dude, I got a request. And I'm like, what's that? He said, you need to keep making films. So it was cool though, because I realized that the length of the films were getting longer and longer. He's like, let's just do like 5-minute films and keep them really short, fun, nothing too complicated. And I like that idea. And it kind of related back to this story I called. It was called The Pot Story. And not marijuana pot, but pottery pots. And I think I told Alvin this story when we were on our camping trip. But so you had a class of pottery students, and the instructor divided them into 2 groups. And he told the one group, I want you to take a week and make one pot, make the best pot that you can, and told the other group, I just want you to make as many pots as you can. And at the end of the week, the group that made as many pots as they could actually had the better pot, because the idea was you're not going to get it right on the first time. So by repetition, by just making a bunch of them, by the end, they had it dialed in perfectly, where the group that was trying to put all their energy into that one pot, it was never going to be perfect because you don't have the experience.
You're not learning.
You don't develop
You're
the
not
skill.
learning from your mistakes and everything. That's
your
actually
muscle memory's not getting built. You're not like pushing through those boundaries that are stopping you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's every little mistake that you correct, and you develop more skill. And particularly with filmmaking, where, and the thing that I thought about doing film a lot longer than anything else I did before I started, because I thought, you got to deal with a lot of people, and it's visual, and it's movement, and it's sets, and it's costumes, and it's sound, and it's lighting, and there's all these variables that if you're in a band, if you're a photographer, if you're a painter, you just have 1 or 2 of those things to deal with. And on the other hand, I like the complexity, and I like dealing with people. So, but I realized that there's just way too much to learn on every project to really get into big projects. So, I kind of like the idea of getting back into it, because the other thing is, one of the first big films I made, maybe 5 films in, was The Wedding Dilemma, and it took a year to get done. And originally I was excited about the script, but by the time we got to filming the last scenes, we filmed it over the course of like 9 months. By the time we were filming the church scene, which was like in October, we started in I think we had our first table read in February. I could care less about what we were doing. I let the cinematographer direct, and I was actually in the other room talking to my cousin because I was burned out. My enthusiasm for the project was gone. I ended up turning over the editing to somebody else, and so after that was the last time I really did anything that big. Need or Greed was cool because Ron Scott wrote it, so I came into it fresh. I didn't have 5 months of writing a script, and if I write a script, which I enjoy, by the time it's written, I've already visualized it in my head, and my energy towards that story is just gone.
Yeah.
So,
where can we find this film, by the way? That
Need or Greed?
Yes, Need or Greed.
I think it's on Vimeo at this point.
Vimeo.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome.
We probably should put it up on YouTube. It's been long enough. I think the theatrical release was probably about a year ago.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so I'm starting to learn as an artist and as a filmmaker, not just how to make films, but how to act as an artist. What is it that I want to get out of this? What's the best way to accomplish it? What is for me? What's not for me? What my process should be? And that, I think I probably learned more about myself through making films than anything else. You learn how that no matter what you plan, it's not going to happen. So the way you planned it, so you learn to think on your feet. I mean, we were doing a film about a wedding, and the day that we were filming the wedding reception scene, the bride couldn't make it. So we had it set up for a wedding reception, and we were able to figure it out, and we found a wedding dress, and we got one of the extras to become the bride, and we got through the day. And so that and just dealing with a big group of people and multitasking and all these skills, I helped develop through making films. but I also realized that how much energy it zaps out of you.
I
And,
have to touch on that point you just made, though, that through making films you learned about yourself.
Yeah.
Because all
Yeah.
of you artists here this evening have said a similar thing. It's sort of like your art is representative of your energy and your flow, like in your life at that point, your drive or your esteem or all of that. I don't know. Do you think that art teaches you about who you are as a person?
I think that's why
Like you
people
are?
make art.
Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
It's
think
That's what it is.
self-exploration.
Well, I can't imagine myself outside of art.
Yes.
So for me, like, yeah, I would love my expression of art to be viewed by others as really cool, and that would be awesome. But like, really, it's just like it's how I've always known myself. It's like when I had my dark times in my life, like even as a kid, what would I do? I'd retreat to my room and make something, and that's just always been how I'd think out the issue. So I can't, it's part of my brain.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
think of it.
Yeah.
Art is definitely like a reflection of who you are. Like, you're putting something out, and might not necessarily be like a picture of you, but it's a picture of you, right? Like, it's who you are at that point in time. Like what you believe in, what you represent at that point in time. And,
Well, and even like doing like commercial art, you can only pull from your own resources to create that. So like, even if you are making something for somebody else to use, like it only really, I mean, you can have inspiration, you can have all this stuff, but you have your own sphere that you're working within. So
You know what I like about the idea of doing commercial art and doing something that someone asked you to do is that you don't just rely on your old fallbacks or the things, your comfort zone. That's because you have clients, it forces you to maybe do something that you normally wouldn't think of doing. And I like that idea of occasionally, that's, I guess, probably why I like directing something that someone else wrote, because it forced me to look at the material differently. And I like what Josh said, when he just would stay up all night and those moments where you have something inside of you that you want to get out, that you wake up in the middle of the night and you start recording music or writing a song or painting or whatever it is, where you want to do it so bad. I remember when I used to write scripts a lot, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and start writing up an idea, and the next thing I knew I had to go to work, and I'm like stopping the car to make notes, and that's probably
It's a drive, it's
Yeah.
for us it's our daily journal.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was saying, it's a reflection of who you are at that time. It's because when you have the drive to do it like that, it's not just the drive to make music or draw something, it's the drive to express yourself.
Yeah.
But kind of going back to what Rachel was saying, it's all about style,
Yeah.
that eventually, the technical challenges will be overcome if anybody spends enough time, but you get remembered for your style.
Right.
I was compared to skateboarding because I grew up skater kid.
Yeah.
So, you could see one kid do a kickflip, another kid does the exact same kickflip. What's the difference? One makes it look cool.
yeah, no doubt. Definitely.
There's probably a fair number of guitar players that could probably play Purple Haze pretty well,
Yeah.
but Jimi Hendrix came up with it.
Right.
And when you think about back in that era that nobody else was doing that, I love Picasso paintings, and you look at them and anybody could paint that. It's very simple from a technical standpoint, but not everybody thought to do that.
Yeah.
Easy to copy.
Easy to copy,
Not
but
easy
hard
to
to be the original.
I was thinking like Basquiat for that, you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
like, it looks like kids did that, but I couldn't do that, and I didn't
Right.
think to do it.
And one of my favorite artists is Rothko, and it's just big blotches of color, but it's also
I prefer that
intense.
way over like an impressionist painting. I do not get it, but I love a color thing. Like, that's awesome to me. But when the second it takes form and representation,
It's too.
and it's like,
The
then I'm like,
structure
no,
off-putting.
this is too elementary. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't
anybody can paint what they see.
Yeah,
So
like-
show me something I've never seen.
Yeah.
It's funny
And
how like
let it come from you.
Mondrian and all that, like,
Yeah.
you know,
The geometric.
yeah, just colors and shapes, but it still conveys emotion.
Yeah.
It was jazz.
Yeah,
Ah.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Now, Amber, I know that at one time you were actually made your living as a painter.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So talk about your background and how you kind of.
Oh, okay.
Came up through.
I'm in like an artistic jack of all trades.
Yeah, that's good.
I've done a bunch of different things, but at one point, I had time and opportunity, and I needed to make rent pretty often, living in Los Angeles and working as a waitress. So I would paint sometimes, and I would sell to clients people that I waited on. I would talk to them, and they would be building or they would need something or whatever. And if they liked oils, then bullfighters. Well, that week I would learn how to paint matadors, or if they needed whatever they needed. If they were open to like accepting what I did, I normally did more like abstract.
Yeah.
I remember once I had this awesome pair of suede pants and an awesome pair of leather pants, and I ruined both of them like within 2 weeks of each other. So I kept them and I cut down the seams and I covered canvases, one in suede and one in leather. And then I painted like these TP looking geometric with like a sunrise sort of in the back. And I sold those to somebody who bought them like for a wedding gift for somebody. And I needed $300 and he gave me $300. So it just often worked out that way for me. So
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm not going to show you all our garage because it's a mess. But if we were to go out there, you'd see like 70 canvases painted over the years and stuff. But yeah, I love art. And like all of y'all have said, whatever you're feeling will come out. You know, now Nate and I make music together because it's what fits into our lives. And it's what we have time to do. And with the girls, like we have 2 small children. So having an art studio set up right now doesn't make that much sense because I don't want my walls oil painted.
Yeah.
But
We have the kids' easel.
we do. And, I can watercolor like a mofo now. But anyway, yeah, the time will come again that I'll start painting again, but it's just not right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that is important to kind of know when the moment's not really there. Like I haven't written anything in a long time. And lately I've been thinking I want to play music. Me and Alvin actually have been talking about playing some music.
Yeah.
And, you know, I haven't done much film work in a while, and it was kind of cool to think about maybe getting back into it. But I think it's also good to walk away from it and to
It is.
focus on different things. And
Yeah. And to not panic and to know it'll be there for you.
Yeah.
You still have that skill set.
I mean,
It's-
how many people have sat in front of something that they had to do for a really long time or drew something over and
Yeah.
over again, trying to find it, only to find it in the middle of the night? You know, it's
Yeah.
like when you
Yeah.
drop it, that it comes to you.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like I know when I had my kids, when I had my children, and like I have 2, and there was like a time where when I first moved to St. Clairsville that I was just caught up in this whole other life, and I didn't have a big life of expression
Yeah.
in my artistic side. But then when I was ready to come out, it just came out naturally. And I
Yeah.
think there's ebbs and flows that should be honored too.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, like-
you gotta ride those waves. Like
Yeah.
anytime I catch creative wave, I try not to stop because I know once those waves are gone and I'm
Yes, man.
I'm stuck in that lull. I'm like, yeah, this isn't fun at all.
Yeah.
Oh, it gets so frustrating.
It does.
Because then you're trying to like squeeze it out of
Like,
yourself.
come on, I can do it.
But when you ride those
Aw.
waves, they're a ball. Like,
Yeah.
When you feel it coming to an end, though, it is like,
yeah.
yeah, it's.
Oh my
It
gosh.
is.
Well,
Well,
I feel like it's really interesting too, like watching my husband, seeing my husband experience my waves, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, like because he's just like when I'm in a burst of inspiration, I can't remember like I can barely get the kids to school on time. I can't like remember like appointments, like
Yeah.
nothing matters. Like I'm trying to, but I'm just so consumed.
Yeah.
And he's just like or I don't sleep, like, which is
Yeah.
totally abnormal
Yeah.
to me because I am a 12-hour sleeper easily. So the second I hit like some kind of inspiration
Yeah.
wave to ride, I guess, like all of a sudden I don't need sleep. It's very manic. like very like obsessive. Got to finish this.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like,
That part of it's
I
so
love
It is
sleeping.
so fun.
I love sleeping, but I've had like binges of creativity where I've not gone to sleep, or I've had like maybe 1 or 2 hours in a 3-day period.
Yeah. Just
And like I'm not tired at all
No.
until I'm done, and
Yeah.
then I'm like, I
Boom.
got
and then you
recharge.
graduate.
Yeah.
Just a small coma.
But
Yeah.
it's just like
Wild.
you're deep in that zone, in that creativity, and like things just make sense, or even if they don't make sense, eventually it's gonna find its way to like
Yes.
making something. And that's like one thing I love doing when I'm making music is regardless of how like a line sounds or riff sounds, like even if I think it's lame at the time, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna put it down anyway, because when I'm listening through again and again, like maybe that will push me into a different direction that I didn't necessarily think of
Yeah.
at that time. Like I might not necessarily use it in the end, like for the whole song, but that might, inspire something else. So I
Yes.
always record everything. I always draw everything that I have, because even if it looks stupid or like I don't have the full idea right then and there, it could grow into something else, right? Like there's always that chance that it could make something that I'd never even thought of. Or
It is kind of part of the process, right? Of just kind of getting it all out there. And I know someone told me early on when I was writing scripts, said, just write your story. Don't worry about how you're going to film it. Don't worry about any constraints of time or anything. Just write your story. And so I would, and a scene that should be 5 minutes long was 20 minutes long. But then I'd go back through and edit it down and what is this really about, and what's too much. And if you have 20 minutes worth of dialogue and you cut it down to 5, you keep the best 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But get it all out of your brain and get it all on the page, and maybe even have somebody else read it so that they can kind of help you sort through what is gold and what is really not necessary. And certainly for film, it's good for me to have to talk to hear what other people think, because we also can lose perspective a lot of times of, definitely for me, when it came time to show a film, I had no idea if it was good or not. How people would react to it, because I was only focused on the things that I wanted to fix that didn't turn out the way I wanted. And so I think, stepping away and getting someone else's perspective on it is good. And I mean, you guys kind of had a cool experience with your music, because you were making it here at home and you got to take it out into public for the first time.
Because of Josh Bommer. So
Josh
they were
Bommer.
there, and Bethany Decker, his partner in Weird Lightning.
Yeah.
Their band, yeah. And that was great.
But I love both of those
I've
points.
seen you before. I've seen you before.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Hey.
are. They
Yeah, you were
The
really good.
sketches that you put down, that you don't, they're like half thoughts, or like the extra 15 minutes of conversation, like the things that you find in there, maybe you're not going to use that, but it'll, it can inspire some of the thoughts that can become a whole nother piece in a new direction that you definitely didn't set off on finding,
Well, and I know for us, like Nate will write a beat, and I'll have written like 4 or 5 poems the night before, and then I'll like listen to the music and just like pull different lines from different things and kind of patchwork it together. So it all has a reason, like it all has a purpose.
Well,
There's a reason
sometimes
it
the
came through your
purpose
brain.
is just like to show you what you're not gonna do.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
you know what, like
Yeah.
that is not it, but thank you because this
Yeah,
is
but-
it.
Yeah.
You know,
Sometimes-
like
sometimes you gotta work through the shit to get to like
Yeah.
the good stuff at the end, right? Like you gotta,
Totally. Some of it's gonna be
There's
skim, and some of it's gonna be cream.
yeah, there's definitely been a lot of songs like throughout the years where it was all right at the time, and I like thought like maybe it was good enough to like make the cut, but I realized that I had to push through like those songs to get to the ones that actually ended up being something that that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And that's also something too that like I find like I need to be I need to be able to enjoy what I put out.
Yeah.
First and foremost, like I need to be able to back it up and be like, I'm proud of that, you know.
Yeah.
Like not so much like, obviously I want other people to enjoy it and to take something away from it, but first and foremost, as long as I can get behind it, then I'll have the confidence to be out there and be like, here, look, like take a listen. If you enjoy it, cool. If not, like, everyone's got their own taste, right? So you can't cater as much to.
There's so
That's
much
the funny-
power in
that's
what
the
you
funny
just
part
said.
about it, too, 'cause,
Especially in
like,
art.
You'll the stuff that you were like questioning whether or not you want to put it on the album, and then a year later you listen back and you're like, I kind of wish I didn't put that on there.
Yeah.
And then you talk to somebody else, it's their favorite track on the album.
Right.
Yeah.
It is really hard to not placate to the audience,
Yeah.
and because I think particularly with music, you know what's catchy and what immediately is going to people are going to like, and then but it's the stuff that you kind of dig on that it takes a minute for people to warm up to it and to take a chance and put something out that maybe
I think that's
people have to warm up to.
I think that's similar to regular like visual art as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I guess it's all-
Absolutely.
yeah.
Like there's a definite aesthetic. Like yours, like Joshua's stuff is like so cool to me right now. I'm like, like it's such a cool aesthetic. And he'd be easily be somebody that I would be like, my stuff does not look like that. Like,
But they're complementary.
they are.
You know,
Yeah.
Totally.
But like and there's just this part that's like, like it's like an itch, right? Like this is what's going to satisfy this itch, because I can't say that I would look at this and say it's good, but I can look at it and say this is it,
Yeah.
I'll get
and
behind it.
the difference between saying like I was just saying, like, art is a crapshoot. You put your art out to a show, you'll get denied. You put your art out to a show, you'll win an award at the same. It's a crapshoot. It's all in the eye of the beholder. If they get what you're saying, if they get your message, if they get their own message from it, it's really. I think it really just does come down to
That's
your
such a
own
small
expression.
part of the whole game, though.
Yeah,
know what I mean?
absolutely,
It really is
absolutely.
personal. It is, but
No, that's it. Then that's the point. It's
Yeah.
so like, we're just all meant to be creators. I think we're created as creative beings, and some of us maybe are tapped into that a little bit more than others,
Yeah.
and it's part of our existence and part of our makeup.
But it's always a little bit scary, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it is for me, for
Well,
sure.
especially if you're doing something that like,
It's original.
well, yeah, and you don't get. I feel like you don't. I don't have the words to explain where my mind is going, and there's more doubts in my head than thoughts cheering myself on. There's more doubts.
The more doubts you have, the more you know
cheering
you're
you on, 'cause
pushing.
your stuff is amazing.
Well,
Thanks.
Your work is great.
the more doubts you have, the more you know that you're pushing the limits, and you're going outside of the safe zone, and it's both exciting and scary. And
Yeah.
something you said, the only advice I've ever given any of my friends that are also going to direct a film is, you don't necessarily know everything that you want to do, because you might get an idea on the fly, and things are going to come up, and you're going to have these magical moments. But know what you don't want.
Yeah.
It's if you're making a comedy, if it's not a slapstick comedy, then if an idea comes up, it might be a great slapstick idea, but that's not what we're doing. Or it's not a gore film, so yes, you could have 5 gallons of blood in this scene, but that's not what the movie's about. And
Right.
and it's a great idea. It's it's stimulating, and to know what you don't want is probably more important than knowing what you do want, because you always have those happy accidents that you'll stumble into, and knowing what to cast aside and what direction to go in. And a lot of times you have to explore to find that what is in the good pile, what is the part that you want to disregard at the moment. That's about the only thing that I have as far as a guidepost when I'm doing anything.
I guess when I was like growing up and coming up and deciding that I wanted to do something creative, but not knowing what in the world that would be, and you watch every movie and everybody's like, believe in yourself, keep going, don't stop, you've got it, it's in you. that's the message that we're fed. But I swear I did not realize just how tough it was going to be
Yeah.
to always believe, or to not get mired down, to like always keep going to do it. But if it's, I think what Rachel said is right, and I think it's in all of us to be creative. But you gotta.
And don't you
do
think
it.
though too, like a lot, like I think what you just said. I mean, yeah. I mean, as a kid, what I thought I would have like achieved, and I don't mean for achieve.
Yeah.
I don't mean achieve like as in like success, like money or whatever. I mean, like all the things I wanted to do as an adult and like
Yeah.
experience. I thought I would like have totally done them by the time I'm 36.
Oh yeah.
And like, and there was nothing that was ever gonna hold me back for sure.
Yeah.
Like not a boyfriend, not any. Like there was
Nothing.
nothing. Like that's
Nothing
how.
was
I mean, and that sense of adventure is what ultimately drove me to, you know, move to the United States and do all this stuff. But like, I don't know.
no, it's
But
true.
but at the same time, so you like. I feel like maybe as artists too, we have to believe in that, right? We have to believe
you
in
have
that.
to be
Like
a little.
you
a
have
little
to be like in this. You have to be in this like
crazy, but
like you have to have tunnel vision and
Yeah, you
believe
do.
in something that the rest of the world
hasn't even seen yet.
doesn't get. Because I realized that like nobody, like if you're waiting for permission or you're waiting for a cheerleader,
Yeah.
it's definitely not going to happen.
So-
And not because people don't care, but they're just, you're not going to get the green light. Like my family
Yeah.
wasn't like, yeah, go and be artists
Yeah.
because you have the talent. You know,
That's
even though like I had the talent. Why didn't anyone? I definitely had the talent as a kid.
Yeah.
Nobody, people are like, but you're smart, so maybe you should do something
Right.
else.
Yeah.
Or you know,
Yeah, the term self-made means exactly that. But yeah.
So-
Anyway, do you want to make a
Yeah, when I decided, I was sitting in an Applebee's with my friend Trevor when I decided to become a filmmaker, and I never went to film school, and I had no money and no equipment and no formal education, and for about 2 or 3 years I kept saying I'd like to make a film, and I would do
Yeah.
these little video projects and here and there, and it wasn't until I quit saying I'd like to make a film and I just said I'm going to make a film.
Yep.
And I just
there's
decided
the
that-
alchemy right there.
Yep,
Between
that's it.
procrastination and living your best life.
Yeah,
And
right. And
saying and speaking truth into the things that
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Breathe life, not
breathe
death.
life.
so what happened then is I took it like a job. So I would, one day a week, I'd go sit in the coffee shop and work on scripts because I didn't have any equipment and I didn't have a lot of friends and I didn't know any actors. And within a short span of 3 or 4 months, I-
It's just walking on James
I-
right now, our mascot.
But I just love I love what he's saying right now. He's like, I didn't have any friends.
I didn't,
I didn't have any money.
I didn't know how I was
I'm
going to.
sitting. I'm just writing.
I'm like, all I can really
Run
do,
away.
I have a
Can
laptop
happen.
and some ideas, so I can write a script. And you have to have a script before you do anything else anyhow. So I'm just going to do the part that I can do for now and figure it out as I go along. And then a friend of mine introduced me to Tim Thompson at Towngate, so he helped me with my scripts and costumes. And while volunteering on a play, my cousin and her husband, Desi, came through. And I'd known Desi for 7 years, and I didn't know that he went to film school. And he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm helping out with the play because I'm making a movie." And he goes, "Well, who's going to shoot your movie?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know." And so then all of a sudden I have a cinematographer, and then the next thing you know, I have actors, and here we are, and we're first day of filming.
It's
We're at my
like
friend
that.
Jeff's house, and we have $100,000 worth of equipment, and we're
Oh.
making a movie.
happening.
and it was, I think I give a lot of credit to the fact that I quit saying that I'd like to do it or that I'm going to try to do it, and I just said I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And I thought if
Yeah.
I have to shoot it on my little pocket camera
Yeah.
and edit it on free software with my nieces and nephews as the actors, somehow I'm going to make a movie. I don't know how good it'll be, and that belief in yourself to just push forward, and of course, being able to accomplish that gave me confidence to, and also when you show up on a set, you've never directed a film and there's all this equipment and all these people that have acted and everything, and they're looking at you.
Yep.
You just got to fake it till
Time
you
to
make
be,
it.
yeah, time
And
to be
there's
that
a-
person.
And part of it is saying, well, I'm no expert, so being a little bit humble, but also being confident at the same time. And as a human being, I got a lot of personal development through all that, and so even if I never make another film again, I grew a lot through that experience, and so I take that forward in everything else that I do.
I was thinking about all of us getting together tonight, and I was having coffee this morning, and I was thinking, it's an interesting thing, like what Rachel was saying about, parents don't necessarily want their kids to be artists.
Yeah.
It's not the most stable career, but this morning I had the thought, with the economy and stuff going the way it is much better to be a starving artist than to just be starving.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, Jim Carrey said that his father, had lost his job as an insurance agent, which was a job that he never wanted. I'm paraphrasing. Whatever his job his father had, he always wanted to be a comedian, but he took a safe job, and then he lost that job. And he said, his dad basically failed at something he didn't even want to do. So if you're going to fail at something, fail at the thing that you love.
Yeah.
And so that's why Jim went on to be a comedian, and said, well, this is what I really want to do. At least if I fail at this, I'm failing at the thing that I really want to do instead of failing at some job that you don't even like.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if you pursue that thing that you love, you're already a success because you're doing the thing that you love.
Right.
And you're going to be good at it from the standpoint that because you love it, you're going to put your whole heart and soul into it. And how could you be successful at something that you really don't care about? And so that's...
But too, like, the whole, like, phrase starving artist should really just be, like, taken out of our vocabulary, because it is, it feeds the life of the starving artist.
Can I just say this? While he was saying what he was just saying, I was like, or
Or
give yourself permission to go ahead and not fail at it.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell yourself I'm going to be successful at this and I'm going to do this and it's
Like,
going to work. But
so my father, he's extremely intelligent and extremely creative, and he went off the beaten path to pursue his dreams. We never had a lot of money. We always had enough, and he said to me straight up, he's like, you can do whatever you want, do what you love and the money will come.
Yeah.
And I think that is really a great advice. However, I look at his life and I feel like he looked at his life as, I'll do what I love and I'll have enough.
mm-hmm.
And I look at my life and I think, I want to do what I love and I want to have more than enough that I can share. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be a bright light. I want to be,
What's the quote? Do well so you can do good.
yeah,
Mhm.
like I want my cup spilleth over, like, absolutely. And I don't think that's greedy. I think that's how we all should live. And there's
Abundance
enough.
is not about
But I feel like there's enough in this world for everyone to live in that. And it's sort of more like we have this mindset of, if I'm going to be an artist, it's going to be hard. And it's like, you know what? No, if you're an artist,
You almost feel like the struggle may be part of it.
And-
feel like there's that sort of
Well,
Well, there's a
and-
romanticism to the struggling.
well, and
part
like you
of
put
it.
your
I've
yeah.
struggled. There's nothing romantic about it.
No, but like you
But
put yourself out there,
Yeah.
and like, you're like, oh, I hope people, like, for me, so in launching this like leggings line, like
Mhm.
like my yoga wear is really just about patterns. Like I drop ship all my prints from companies that I've printed and I like them enough that whatever. But like I'm not sewing, I'm not printing anything. I'm just creating these patterns, making sure I like the product, and then putting it out there.
Yeah.
And like I could compare myself to all these people who have done it better. I can compare myself to like corporations who do it completely differently, and I just think like it's a really cool way to put art out in the world, but I have to change my mindset about how I'm looking at it, because like I don't know. Help me out here. Like,
So
help me out here. Like you got. Like, I feel like we have to believe that somebody is going to see it in order for it to come into fruition.
Yeah.
100.
You have to have a certain
You have to, like,
confidence in what
if that
you're
drive
doing.
doesn't come through you,
Yeah.
it's never going to feed to other people, and
Yeah.
it's never going to be like, they're never going to see your vision for it,
Yeah.
essentially, or feel what you
Yeah,
want to feel.
yeah.
Or are you saying like without an audience it doesn't exist?
Without buyers, I mean, a substantial art business doesn't exist.
Ooh.
I mean, let's get to it. Like, if
But
it's,
is it? But the leggings are still art, whether or not somebody.
no,
sees it.
absolutely.
So
Well,
there.
Okay, here,
Yeah.
so value.
Yeah.
Let's talk about value.
The patterns are
value.
whether or not
Let's
somebody
talk
else
about
sees
value,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I believe there's more value in my legging patterns
Uh-huh.
than perhaps somebody who just took an image off the internet somewhere, found a pattern they liked, and put on a pair of pants and put it out there. There's substantial
Yeah.
value because I, for one, I have a message. So most of my patterns have like an energetic message behind it that people don't necessarily get. But like, if you're buying my evil eye pants, chances are you're gonna get some third eye power coming your way, you know? Okay. Right? But like, I mean, there's so many amazing, like, there's so much out there. So it's like sifting, how do you so I guess this is what I'm trying to say is like, as an artist, I have to believe that not necessarily that my audience has to be grand in money or big in numbers, but like it's going to reach the few people who I want it to reach, who will be beneficial, and in some ways my actions of putting it out there is going to be granted by the universe and returned back to me in some way. Like whatever I put out there is going to come back to me, and it is not necessarily a communist monetary distribution exchange that's happening, as in I give out A and I get B back, but like
It's like a connective.
but like you want to know what, like
exchange.
I'm putting out my chi, like I'm putting out my life force, and I expect to receive my life force back.
The
And I
three
feel
of you are.
and this goes back to what Joshua kind of hinted at. Like I'm gonna pull you out. Remember, like you kind of just in passing said, you know, when I was at my darkest, then I started to create. And I feel like as an artist, for me personally, and I'm curious on how you are on this, and you guys too, because you're all artists too. But like, you know, I've had really bad depressive problems in my past, and I've tried to sort through them. And the only thing that really gets me through it is when I honor myself and I honor like my creativity and my creative urge. And then, but that pattern doesn't necessarily fit with like what the world is telling me is the pattern, right? Like of like the way that regular life works. And so I found that like communicating my truth through creativity and putting that life force out into the universe comes back tenfold in like friends like Amber and Nate who would like believe in me and believe in my creativity, and that means so much more to me than you
Just
know
selling
than
a
a
whole lot of
job
stuff.
or selling
Yeah.
leggings or whatever.
Right.
But like putting that out there, like I just there's like integrity behind being an artist and behind like I really think, okay, I know I'm rambling, but I have a point I want to get to. So like I know that I'm curious if other people have felt this. Like I know if I'm not creating art, I'm depressed, I'm not normal, I don't fit. But if I embrace and I create art, it works, but only if I allow and trust the universe to let it give back to me, you know?
Yeah.
Like the ebb and the flow
Yeah.
with the universe. You believe, like, I don't know, and then I think, I'm just talking universe, I'm talking like creative energy, I'm talking putting it out, getting it back, like, it's all life, and it's a side of,
It's all life.
it's a part of this side of life. Maybe this is really feminine talk for you,
We
for men.
touched on this when we had our other podcast.
Yeah.
We touched on the exact same thing. The drive of art, the reason we do it. Why do we wake up excited in the morning? Like, what is that thing? And then when you get down, how do you get out? Everything you're touching on right now.
Like I think I was born to create, and I can't I remember, you know, like I just think like there was never a question as a child what I was going to do as an adult.
I have a quite well, go ahead, James. I'm sorry.
So for me, it's always been about the process of doing it, and then once the work is done, I'm over it. I can tell you that whenever we've had a big showing of a movie, that I really don't even want to go. I'm already thinking about something else, and it might not even be film related. That because that's usually the premiere is months away from when you actually finished everything, and so for me, it's the act of the creating that really gets me excited, and the finished product. All the drawings and paintings I did, they're on a shelf under a bed, something I got a few of them that I keep it hung up at my house, and it's that, I guess for me, I don't so much think about how the world will react to it, although I do think that in general, what you put out into the world does come back to you, whether it's as an artist or just the smile on your face. And I think if you put good energy out into the world, it's going to come back to you. And I even
I guess I wasn't trying to say like what the world will affirm me. I wasn't saying that. I was saying that like my existence, like I feel like I cease to exist if I don't put it out.
So it's finding a higher value in the process than the.
Yeah, and part
product.
of who I'm meant to be is just like to put it out. Like I don't,
if you didn't do it, you'd be suppressing your true self.
My whole like I don't know any other way.
Yeah.
Like if I had to do production work, that would like that's what I mean. Like I've done that. Like I worked for a great company in Chicago, that I love everybody there to death, but like. It was production work, and it was doing stuff that like wasn't necessarily art. It was commercial art. They were a great stepping stone for me to learn processes and all that stuff. But like I could never see myself doing a career there.
Yeah.
So I had an interesting discussion today with my friend Corey, and the same discussion 7 years ago with my friend Ben, who's a potter, and he was a head waiter at the farm restaurant, and he says, I like being a waiter. And I said, really? He said, yeah, because as a potter, I had my economics, my livelihood isn't based on my art. So if I make a pot and everybody loves it, I don't need to make 50 of them so that I can pay the rent. He said that I can do the craziest, whatever I want to do, and if they sell, they sell, and if they don't, they don't. And Corey was saying the same thing because he's a musician. I said, would you want to just be able to play music for a living? And because we were talking about some business ideas, and he's like, actually, I like the fact that my livelihood isn't tied to my music, so that I have the freedom to create what I want or to not create, to take a break. And I know that I was in a band for a while that was making a little bit of money, and all of a sudden, when I always just never thought about any of the money, and because when you do. It's hard to not let that affect, there's only 50 people here tonight. There were 70 people the last time. And, am I going to have enough money for rent? Maybe we should do something a little bit more commercial the next time.
Tailoring the product to.
And so I guess the question is, there's a saying that if you do what you want, what you love for a living, you never work a day in your life. But I think there's also the converse to that if you take what you love and you make it into your job, then you run the risk of turning this thing that you love into work. and like I know for me, with film, I would not want to go out and shoot TV commercials. Now, I don't have anything against anybody that does that, but I think that would make me hate making films. If I had to do it to pay the rent, I think it would make me completely hate it. Or even the podcast, I've never even thought about. I mean, I guess I thought about it, but not seriously about monetizing it, because I wouldn't necessarily want this to be my livelihood, because then there'd be too much pressure to, did that episode do well? And this isn't, I put the episodes out, and honestly, just like everything else I do, these episodes go up, and I kind of see how many people download them, and it's nice to get positive feedback. But honestly, I do them because I enjoy making them, and what happens afterwards I have no control over anyhow, so I don't care, and so I like that my income comes from other things besides necessarily my creative work. Takes the pressure off.
Yeah, totally. In that way.
We appreciate your podcast.
We do.
Well, thanks.
Thank you.
The great thing about doing the podcast is just that I've got to have these great conversations with so many different people, and even people that I've known. Like I knew Alvin for a long time, but when we did the podcast over the summer, I learned things about him that I hadn't before, and also talking on this level, you get an insight into life, and stuff really sticks with you. I think maybe my 5th podcast, Josh Taylor came on. He's a fabulous musician, and he talked about success, and that there's kind of a redefinition of success that's going on with artists and musicians, where if you have a loyal, even a small but loyal fan base, you can make a living as a musician. Now you're not going to be Tommy Lee, where you tear down a mansion so that you can park your 12 Ferraris, into a parking lot and be filthy rich, but you can make a nice income of a normal family doing what you love for a living, and that's success. And just the idea that whatever it is that you enjoy doing, and this kind of goes against what I just said earlier, but the idea that you don't have to make $1 million as an artist to be successful. If you can get enough to pay your rent, and if you have a little left over to pay back to the community, I guess from that standpoint, I look at it and I go, at what point is too much? Or like what is that dollar amount? Because I always feel like no matter how much money I would make, that I could always figure out a way to be poor with it, or I could but I could also just the same not have a large income and still have extra at the end of the month, depending on how my lifestyle. So it's.
But don't you think part of it? Okay, so like redefining what we think. Like, okay, our world is going through insane changes.
Yeah.
And like what is our community? What is that? Like, I mean, we have our online community, we have our friends that are there, we have our really close friends. But if you have a small enough resource, it doesn't have to, like, you definitely can make it doing what you love if you can just be honest to yourself and find your audience. Like,
I think with like the advent of technology and what it is today, it's made it more accessible for people nowadays to not necessarily need to go to big cities to find success. And that was like one of the things that kind of bummed me out, was that I'd see like so many people that were creative and had these abilities within small communities, because I've lived in small cities for most of my life. Like, I've lived in big cities too, but in a lot of these small cities, you see a lot of potential and a lot of creativity, and then it kind of bummed me out to see them all want to move out because they thought that that's where they needed to go in order to succeed. And it's not a bad thing to go out and spread your wings either, but it does take away from the potential of communities and the cities. And we are kind of seeing a little bit of a resurgence in these small cities. Starting off with like Portland or Austin before that, like those art-based cities, and then even Pittsburgh now. Like Pittsburgh has grown so much over the last few years, and you see a lot of art, a lot of places to grub where and they're good, like good restaurants and stuff like that are coming in. And to a smaller extent, we see that here in Wheeling as well.
We do.
Like we're a population of less than 30,000 now. Yeah. There's good restaurants and good artists and stuff that have been popping up over the past 5 or so years.
Well, it's definitely leaps and bounds. I've left in '98 and came back in 2015.
Yeah.
And I'd always try to keep up with friends and Facebook and see what was going on in Wheeling. Because when I left in '98, it was going downhill, and it had been going downhill for like 30, 40 years. But then, you know, a couple restaurants pop up and some like artworks places pop up, and all of a sudden it's, you know, you can definitely feel the vibe. All the, you know, mid-30s something folks are moving back with their kids, and the overall mentality is so much more positive now than than I can.
You can get
ever
organic
remember.
food at the grocery store.
You know,
When I
it's
first
the small
moved here,
victories.
no, when I first moved here,
From
you
the
couldn't.
grocery store.
You couldn't even couldn't find organic food anymore.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, okay, I want to talk. I mean,
Even in St. Clairsville?
oh no, there was nothing.
I love your Kroger.
Yeah, but it didn't.
I
They
come to,
just
wait,
recently
I
had an
come to your
organic
Kroger
section.
for something.
Really?
So there's some things you can only get at the Wheeling Kroger and some at the Mount de Chantal.
The Sean.
Ma-
Deshaun?
Ma-
It took me
Chantal.
forever to know.
Day
I think it's
Day Chantal? Wait,
Deschanel.
What-
Deschanel.
wait, that's not French. Deschanel.
One of the
That's
the
so
cool things
weird.
about the internet
That's so
is that you know there's not necessarily the idea of like people in the country are backward anymore because they have the same access to information.
Some of them do.
Some of them do. I mean,
But I know what you're talking about.
They
Yes.
have to seek it out, but
No, but there's not equal broadband across the United States.
but there isn't. But the idea that these ideas that would maybe normally be found in the big city, like healthy eating and yoga and stuff like that, that people that you would never expect have just as much access as the rest of the world, and you find how much people's eyes are open. I think what's nice about this particular area is that you guys are doing electronic music, and there's not 50 other bands that are doing electronic music, and so and at the same time there is a nice supportive community. The people like whatever is going on, they're going to come out and support it.
I think I agree 100%. Like, I tell everybody, like, we live 15 years in the past, but at the same time, we live 15 years in the past.
Yeah.
Like, anything we bring is going to be so, like, supported. You know, like, it's so cool. Like, people are so excited if you're trying out anything that's sort of new. And it's also, it's the way you look at it.
And there's not a willing style. There's not something that we're locked into. Now, I love the show Portlandia, but when you watch that show and they kind of make fun of the Portland vibe, Willing doesn't really have a vibe. So it's kind of anything goes. In fact, I think it's aggressively eclectic.
Yeah.
You know, and you get a bunch of people that's like this shotgun approach. And I went to several different community meetings, and they would talk about, how can we revitalize Willing? And I thought maybe it'll be something like the next Nirvana, or the next whatever thing would happen to put Willing on the map. But now I think that if I was a community leader, what I would promote is the idea that it's where you can come and be yourself. And I would like to see it be a community of cottage industries and a bunch of people doing their own particular thing, and so that it's not known for any one thing, but the fact that it's a place where you can come and do your own thing.
Yeah.
And so
I think that, I
Which
feel
is
like
the drawing room.
Which,
should be the
well, I feel like, and I feel like that's sort of the vibe that, like, when I first came, I thought, like, wow, like, there's really, and granted, I came from Chicago as a little jaded. I was pregnant, so that my hormones were off. And that really does change a whole lot of shit.
Holy moly.
But,
Agreed.
but, like, I had a hard time adjusting to the pace of the world here because it's a little bit slower. But so my father-in-law has gone for lunch with my mother-in-law like every day of his life. What a beautiful existence. You know what I mean? Like, he's worked and he's like, no, we have our office close to my house, so I can meet my wife every day for lunch, and they have lunch every day, whether it's at home or out or whatever, unless he has a lunch meeting. But that's typically, like, if it's not a lunch meeting, they're together. And I think my husband brought me home. My husband brought me here thinking that we could have that same life. And it's funny because like he really did want to create his childhood for our children and his parents' marriage for us, which was really sweet. But like I am just like I'm not that kind of person. Whatever, that's fine. But I do think it's like so cool that this is like where old time values sort of clash and embrace these new like it all crashes here. And at first I was like, what in the world is going on here? This is such a weird vibe. And now I get it. Like, and now I get that like anybody can move here, present themselves, and if you are like kind of nice, the environment will embrace you.
Absolutely.
Like, and say like, and celebrate you. Like,
there's room for everybody here. There's room for everybody's talents
Yeah.
and everybody's input.
and everybody's celebrated. Like, I don't like, and they take time to like. I feel super supported by the community, and I feel like I have opportunity to support others.
Well, so Josh, when I first met you, you were living in Pittsburgh, but you were coming here pretty often, right?
Yeah, I started coming here a few years ago, and basically once I kind of came out of my hidey hole in Pittsburgh and started hanging out down here, reconnecting with everybody. Before I knew it, I was down here every weekend.
Yeah.
I was driving back and forth, sometimes 3 times a week. And that was part of what made me kind of helped me decide that I was going to just move back.
Yeah, because you just moved back, what, 3 or 4 months ago?
In the summer.
In the summer, yeah. Which is, so many people move to Pittsburgh from here, and I think it's really cool that it's to see people coming in the other direction.
Yeah.
What is it about the area that made you come back every weekend and as opposed to Pittsburgh?
People. Yeah, I just I have some friends in Pittsburgh. I have some great friends in Pittsburgh, but I just have a whole I don't know. There's just this quality to people that I know here that really supports me, gets me, and pushes me.
Yeah.
So I was, that, and right where I lived in the South Hills. It was the last place in Pittsburgh I lived before I moved here, and even in the South Hills, which is kind of, if you're not familiar, it's kind of removed from the city, but it's, it's still busy. It can take you like 15 minutes to drive 3 miles.
Yeah.
And I was like, it'd be kind of cool, like, to, not have to worry about that.
Sure.
And I was oddly, I was expecting things to slow down for me here, but they've kind of only...
Isn't it amazing how that happens?
Yes,
No,
absolutely.
It's like the community, once you let it leak out a little bit, they start to pull you. It's amazing. Like,
one of the
everything
things
pulls it forward.
that I found about living in a smaller community versus, it's easy to get lost in a crowd in the city.
Yeah.
And I think that
And to be a
people
spectator.
and relationships become more expendable because there's the feeling that around the corner there's someone else just like me. Whereas here, when you meet someone that you have something in common with that's cool, you stay in touch because it's not an infinite resource pool.
Sure.
And there's also something about the fact that there's 3 or 4 places that we all go out that you're going to run into people if you meet someone that's cool. Like,
it's a very small town.
Yeah.
If you don't, and I mean this in the best way, if you don't put your best foot forward, like, people, I'm not saying people are bad, but like, or judgmental. I just mean like it's a small town.
Yeah.
So what you truly are will, like, you will be seen. Like, you can be seen by those around you. Which in the city, it's much harder to be seen.
Absolutely.
and you take the time to value people and
Yes.
to get to know them and I think value them is really probably the best way to look at it.
100%.
That they aren't expendable and that you have the opportunity to really nurture relationships and I know when I lived in bigger cities that you meet somebody and they're awesome, but you never see them again. Or they're just so entrenched in a certain subset of the city that you can't be everywhere at once. There's too much. Where, for our kind of group, if you go down to Willing Brewing, you're going to run into everybody. You go to Third Fridays, you're going to run into the usual suspects.
Which is awesome.
And I think that's a plus, to know that the like-minded people that you enjoy hanging out with, that you're eventually going to meet up with them over and over again, enough to where these relationships can cultivate and
It's like living in Cheers.
yeah,
Kind
it
of,
is.
honestly.
It is.
And I feel like too, I think we mentioned this before, but it feels like one of the first non-competitive communities that I've ever lived in.
Yeah.
In so many ways.
You
I
lived
think
in LA.
and Nashville.
And Nashville.
we've seen a lot of growth in we actually just got home last night from Nashville, and just being there for a week, I again appreciate that layer of Wheeling where not everybody is trying to just sideline you. Like it's just, you're really not only allowed but encouraged and honestly needed
Yeah.
to be the best you can be here, because there's not a whole lot of
You gotta fill your.
resources.
There's a puzzle piece to
So
fit,
like you said,
and so like fit it.
if
and
you
like,
stand up and you're your best
And-
every day, you can be seen for that, but
And I like
it's
how
needed.
how
here.
like childishly excited people get over new ideas and new
Yeah.
It's so
yeah.
good, and
It's
how
like
they
it's like
rally
being 12
behind
years
you, and
old
they're
and
like,
you form
"Come
a
on,
band.
this is great."
Yeah.
I mean,
Like, oh man, we're gonna do this. We're gonna like just like
it's
the
hard
grandest
to find that
plans.
feeling.
Like,
in a
Nate, do
bigger
you
place
think-
than Wheeling?
like, do you think you would have been as excited about starting bands if you weren't, like, if you didn't grow up in Wheeling? You know what I'm saying?
Like, do you feel like you had to make your own fun?
No, like because he had this community that was
Yeah,
accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Did that help him feel like it could happen for him?
It was different when we were kids. We had to fight a lot to get what we wanted
Yeah, I didn't
You
think
did?
I didn't think I was anything when I was a kid, and
because we had to make it happen.
my idols were people like Josh and like members of Bala and like all the local bands. That when I was
Yeah.
like 12 and 13, I would like sneak out of my house to like go see these underground hardcore shows, and those were my idols.
Yeah.
We're like the Wheeling DIY mentality is what made
amazing.
Is what made me
Yeah.
who I am,
It's
really.
amazing.
That's why I have a recording studio in my house, and why I like anything that I'm interested in. I don't want to just like have a part in it or pay somebody to basically do it for me. I always want to learn things like from the very basic first step
Mm-hmm.
and progress from there, so that I know how to do everything. And then you have a lot more pride, and
Yeah.
and the product becomes completely personalized too.
I really like the attitude that someone else's success doesn't diminish your success.
Not at all.
And that
Not at all.
when you see your friend doing something good, you're happy for them and they're happy for you, and there's enough room at the table for everybody. And in fact, even more than that you want to see your friends do well,
Yeah.
and it inspires
Absolutely.
you to work hard. But really, like when I first saw Josh and Bethany, and I just fell in love with what they're doing, and
Because it's great.
It's so cool.
it was so
It's
cool.
so cool.
And then when I saw you guys and
Yeah.
Alvin's music, and I have to see Rachel's work, but when I see somebody doing something great, it doesn't even really relate to what I'm doing, as far as it's not a competition. I just like
Yeah.
I like seeing
Exactly.
everybody do great.
And I think that is a big difference. Like, what Alvin was saying, like all these kids from small towns think that they have to move to these giant cities in order to be successful
Yeah.
or reach the next level, or it whatever goal they set as for themselves. But that pretty much brings jealousy with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you take the small town kid who was rooting for his friend, who is now like struggling in the big city to make it, and he sees somebody else making it, and he's like, well, why can't that be me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so they like start to hang out with that person, or try to like have some sort of relationship with that person, but really it's just built on how did
Envy.
you do that?
Yeah.
Like, what's
Yeah,
the secret?
envy.
Where for us,
And perhaps
But
if success
here-
was reformulated to be like
just
something
bettering
different
that.
than
Mhm.
I just
know,
want my
whatever.
friends to have
Something
fun.
dark instead of something light, like coming from something that's envious
Yeah,
instead of
like if
something
it
that's,
was,
like,
if it was,
passionate.
yeah, like if it was, if we could redefine success,
Yeah.
so we could be happy in our communities or.
I feel like here in Wheeling, it's like what we were saying earlier. We never discard work.
Yeah.
Always put it out, any thought in your head, and then you maybe later pick a line here, pick a line there, and you get inspired. It seems like here when people look at other people's work, you don't get envious. You just
Yeah.
sort of like take what it impresses upon you and maybe read between the lines and get inspired to do your own work.
I think it's
from
because it
your
is
work.
so small.
Yeah,
I think it's because it's small enough. Like, absolutely. Yeah.
It's inspirational, right? Instead
Yeah.
of envious. And
Like,
it's the coolest thing
Yeah,
I've
like
ever seen.
I feel like even people who do things that are really similar to me, I think I'm like, yes, it's so cool.
Yeah.
But there's plenty to go around here.
Yeah.
You know,
Kind
like
of
it's
pushes you a little bit.
It
because
does.
it shows that it's definitely attainable,
Mhm.
and not only you're happy for them, but then it's like, all right, let me see if I can like get to that level, right? Like, let me see if I can put out something that I feel like is just as good, if not better, and hopefully that builds on top of one another.
Yeah,
Oh.
a nice, healthy, like competitive spirit.
Healthy competitive.
But it's
like,
healthy.
in most other
It's
places,
it's more
cutthroat
inspirational
yeah, it's
than
competitive.
competitive.
inspiration.
Yeah.
It's like which one of us
Yeah.
is going to get this deal and which one of us is going to pay our mortgage
Yeah.
next month. You
Yeah.
know, like it's
Some-
very cutthroat in the other places that I've lived.
Yeah.
But here, it's just that it's healthy competition. It's
Mhm.
beautiful. It's wonderful.
And
It's
I-
more like a game.
I like that there's new things happening all the time. You know, I mean, this whole wave of like electronic music that's
Yeah.
coming along, and I love that, and I think it's inspiring more people to maybe break outside of the traditional molds, and that's just another layer of the onion where, you know, they're starting to do these comedy nights now, and
Yeah.
wait,
and-
where is
And
that?
the Shakespeare nights. Those
Shakespeare
are so
nights.
fun.
So that it's a version of a comedy night. They're doing Facebook Live, which it's basically you make a comment on a topic, and then you have a certain emoji that you're trying to get people to react to. And so it's the difference, the heart, it's the smiley face, it's the oh my face, it's the angry face. And everybody has a paddle with all the different faces on it. And they'll say, all right, here's the topic, here's the emoji that you want to evoke, and then you have to say something as if you're making a Facebook comment and see how the people in the bar will react.
Oh
and
my
Where is this happening?
down at Talkaholics.
Oh,
what?
what?
Get out of
Do
here.
they have like a set night?
Yeah, they have the night coming up. Jermaine Lucius was on the podcast. Him and Ron Scott came up with this game, and
That's so, of course, Ron Scott did. What a fun.
yeah, it's
human
it's
being.
coming up soon.
Yeah,
It's
it's
great
like
ideas.
either this coming Thursday or the
We should
next
all
one.
Wait,
Oh, that's
okay,
fun.
I'm
That'll
going
be
to tell you
fun.
guys. I've only been to Talkaholics once, and it was late at night, and I went in there with a group of people, and it was like I think they're closing their bar down, and I said I would like to order one of everything on the menu,
Uh-huh.
and I did that,
And yeah.
and they brought it all out. We
Yeah.
tried everything on the
Oh,
menu,
that's cool.
but it was like 1 a.m, and I said I would like one of everything.
Were there
please."
drinks involved in that
Great.
decision?
Probably. I mean, there's a lot of drinks involved in a lot of my decisions. So I can't really clearly differentiate drinks and no drinks.
Some of
But
them probably. It's fine. We're all artists here.
I'm gonna put a pause on this for 1 second.
Macy, don't get Rachel.
We had started. It's something about inspiring the next. And after our second show, there was a kid like 18 to 20, somewhere around there. And just a shy kid who I'd never seen before, and he just came up to us after the show. He was like, oh, "That was really cool," He's like, "I like the sense," and he was super shy about it. But I was like, "Thanks for coming out and being friendly." But I could just like see in his eye. I don't know if he produces music now
Yeah.
or if he
Or if
wants
he's
to,
going
but
to.
He was inspired.
I know he's gonna come back.
Yeah.
I know he's gonna be playing one day. But I'm excited for that.
This was after a Love and Data show.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Was it the one I was at?
It was the one that
At
you just
Artworks.
barely missed.
Yeah.
I was there.
You weren't there. Yes, you were there.
It is like you and Bethany had a kind of an interesting way of starting your band, right? It was because Sean, her husband, Mr. Fancy Pants and music guy, and I remember seeing her at Sarah Fulton's birthday party, and she said, "Yeah, me and my friend Josh, we're writing some songs, and we're going to be playing out." And this was, I want to say it was maybe February, and then I think the first time I saw you guys play was in the spring or the early summer. But how did you guys even? I think we may have talked about the podcast, but I forgot. It's,
Our inception.
yeah.
So when I started, well, let me back up a little bit. I met Bethany in probably like 98, 99. She's with her twin sister Stephanie, and we went to. Do you remember when people used to cool people actually used to go to Generations?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wait.
So,
I go
I
there.
didn't live
No, I'm just
here.
kidding.
well, I don't mean anything
Like
by it
sometimes.
other than people
I've
that
been
I
there a few
found
times.
interesting.
Yeah.
Like went there. We would go there to like dance and get silly, and yeah. So I met her. I met her sister at school, but I met her there. They these two Muppet humans.
Yeah.
And
That's a
they-
good description.
Yeah, and they were like
They're
bopping
so
across the dance floor
animated.
towards
No, I know
us.
them.
They're
That's
just
so
beautifully animated people.
And so I met them like back then, and we bonded over a love of Syphil and Ollie. And
Syphil and Ollie. I didn't know you were a fan.
oh yeah, I'm a big fan. Yeah.
Precious Roy.
Precious Roy, making lots of suckers out of girls and boys.
Cost from the public. Cost.
Yeah. Bethany and Steffi, they're big fans of Chester.
Oh, Chester.
But yeah, so we bonded over that, and then a few years later, she kind of came back around. I think she had come back from school, and I think my girlfriend at the time introduced her to Sean.
Oh wow.
I think that's how that happened, because she and Bethany worked at the same restaurant, and so we kind of reconnected there. And then I moved to Arizona, and I was there for a lot of years, and then moved to Pittsburgh and was there for a while. And started.
Wait, can you just synopsis this?
Synopsis, what?
The Arizona?
No, the whole thing. I missed it.
Puppy dog.
Essentially.
Because of that.
He met
Yes,
Bethany.
the puppy dog.
Look at this
You
puppy
met
dog.
Bethany and her
Yeah.
Muppet sister. They're
Yeah.
twins at Generations, and then
And then
His then girlfriend introduced Bethany to her now husband.
okay,
Right,
okay,
more or
got
less.
it.
Yeah,
Okay,
this is
okay.
like a
Moved to
few years
Arizona.
later.
Okay,
a
thanks,
few years
sorry.
later, they,
You're so look at me.
she
right
kind
now.
of came
She's in full
back
effect.
into my circle, and actually, because I should add that my then girlfriend, now current ex-wife, was her husband's roommate.
Dig.
All these terms,
Dig
I
it.
can't.
Dig it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm with you.
So anyway, so I started coming back down to hang out here, and it was actually Mr. Fancy Pants who kind of got me down, because I kept seeing them post.
Right on.
I'm friends with all those guys, and I kept seeing them post like their shows, and I was like, I'm like an hour or so away, and I've never seen them play. I started feeling so guilty, so I started coming down to see them play. The first time I saw them, I had a really good time, so I came back again. The second time was when she was actually, apparently they got a babysitter, and so she came out, and I saw her, and we were just like, super excited to see each other, and I was like, oh my god, I forgot how much fun she was.
Yeah.
Just immediately I was reminded, and I was like, I'm starting to band with her. Like some people are like, they see somebody and they're like, oh, I'm gonna marry that boy or whatever. I'm like, I'm gonna start a band with that girl. So
I like your band.
thank you.
Yeah,
A
me
lot.
too. Yeah.
A lot.
Thank you.
Same. Your beats are so catchy.
Yeah.
So,
The songs are
yeah.
fantastic.
Same.
Well, and when I saw Love and Data for the first time, I didn't really even, I don't think I even knew that you guys were playing necessarily. And I just know when I first walked in, you guys were sitting by the door, and you're like, you were there with Rich, and you're just like, hi. And you guys were just excited to be there. And,
We are. He has this shirt that says, I'm just really happy to be here, and I feel like that should be our just moniker.
yeah, and it's a good motto to have it. And
You
then
have
you
it's a
guys,
pleasure to meet you. So
Exactly.
It's similar.
Oh, that's true.
and it was so cool because even though you guys were both playing electronic music. Both bands are completely different, and I'm like, wow, this is something yet again, something new for the Ohio Valley, and it really kind of made me excited. Just like I'm like, oh, there's no end to the layers of the onion of what that within every nook and cranny, there's somebody toiling away, doing something really cool that not that many people know about. And part of the whole reason for starting the podcast was to all these little pockets of people that are doing cool stuff to bring more awareness to what's going on. Me and Alvin did a podcast a couple of weeks ago with the guy from Willing Threads. You know, it's got this really awesome t-shirt company, and just so many people from, Lindsay from Happy Goat came on, and so the more people can know about what she's all about, and to not only know what people around here are doing, but then take the time to get to know the people behind the thing that's going on, and to build that sense of community. And I think that's one thing that I'm already seeing, that there's these really cool collaborations between different art forms, and if there's one thing that I could kind of contribute to the community, is I'd like to see even more of that, where film and art and music in it, that they all come together, and people are collaborating on their projects, whether it's an artist doing an album cover, and a filmmaker doing a music video, and I'd really like to see unique combinations that are maybe not so typical.
I feel like your roundtable podcasts are facilitating that exact thing.
I think definitely getting a group of artists together in a room to talk about what they do and
realize their commonalities with their differences, and then collaborate.
Earlier in the podcast, you even mentioned that you'd like to collaborate with Josh, and
sure.
Oh, right off,
and
right off on the way. Yeah, let's all hang out.
Well,
Do something.
I love the idea that what are you gonna call the room? The
drawing.
Space?
The drawing room.
So
yeah.
I love that idea, and AJ, who had the coffee shop in St. Clairsville, I can't remember his exact quote, but he said something that it was a place where people could collaborate, conspire, and something else, but the idea of
let's conspire.
Yeah,
Let's
in a good way.
conspire.
In a
Yeah,
good way.
absolutely. Let's conspire for the good of all of us.
I think it would be great to have a space like that, where not only artists can come and work on their work, but that they can be encouraged to reach out and collaborate with other people
and share.
And share.
I think
really, we just need
to
stop, collaborate,
and
listen. Hey, baby.
Oh, man.
That should be the wheeling. Okay, so I officially nominate stop, collaborate, and listen as the new wheeling slogan.
How about stop, conspire, and listen? Just to be a little bit subversive.
Stop, conspire, and listen. That works.
Halt, conspire, pay attention.
It's all good.
I think it's an interesting concept of getting these people from diverse. I think it's the right culture for it, because it is non-competitive and there's not a lot of haters, and it's a small enough community where people can develop these bonds, and it could be something that could take living here, which is already awesome, take it to that next level where it really is something that you can only do here.
You know what? I've lived a lot of different places, and the conditions here,
Yeah.
like when you have the right soil for a great garden, you know it, and the conditions here are incredible for whatever reason, for making awesome artists.
They did a show at the Children's Museum, and you guys played there, and
was that your first show?
Wait, when was that?
That was your first show.
It was like our second.
I think it was your second show.
When was that?
And it was cool.
Last year.
Last year or something, the year before, I can't remember.
Yeah,
It was
might have been the year before, the summer before.
Was it?
Or the year before that?
Year before that.
But while they were doing that, we were doing paintings in the window of the place.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's so cool.
So I had this group called the Kinetic Aesthetics, and we're still loosely together, but the idea was the Artist Underground. It was kind of for people that don't necessarily have a home in one of the formal structures, and the idea that for the artist that's maybe toiling away in obscurity at home,
Yeah.
to bring them out into the light
Yeah.
and give them the opportunity to mingle with other artists, and then also by everybody being together, take their art out into the rest of the world.
That's what Weird Lightning did for us.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah, and really expose the community to the local art and expose the artists to the local artist community.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, we have a lot of really cool art things here, but I think that it's not just about fine art and wine and cheese. I like the idea of, you know, beer and popcorn and live music
Art on every level.
on every
Art
level.
every
And,
level.
and
Wait, have you guys tried the popcorn from Wheeling?
Popcorn?
Pop.
Yeah.
Popcorn?
that's awesome that they're doing that.
I love it.
I love
Yeah.
the dill.
No, that's the one I like. It's like the dill
Yes, it is.
hill
Yes,
habanero.
dude.
That's the only one I like, actually.
And
But let's do it over and over and over again. I
Do
love
this.
that.
And one
Sounds
of the
amazing.
things I love about Willing now is that we even have the cheese melt and the popcorn
Yeah.
place and some really cool new food places and talkaholics, and you're seeing where food is being treated as an art and
Absolutely.
because
and
it-
valued as an art. People are going
Yeah.
there. People are supporting those businesses.
and I think that in
Sarah's
addition
on
to
Main.
artists,
Yeah, I was gonna say
Sarah's
Sarah's
on
on Main.
Which
I'm kinda
this girl
sad
happened to
the
do the art for
Lebanese-
that building.
Yeah.
I'm kinda
the
sad.
bakery,
the
yeah.
Sad that
bakery.
oh no, who is
What?
that?
What?
R.I.P.
Lebanese
The
food in town.
Lebanese bakery that
Lebanese
was there.
bakery.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Yeah,
But-
I'm sad that
Be
close shop.
joyful that Sarah moved into
Yeah.
that space, because
Yeah.
if there's any human that could
Yeah, I don't know where to
get
get my grape leaves now, though.
No,
Because that's where I
seriously,
got
the
them.
grape
I got them
leaves
from the
are
Lebanese.
so-
I'm
Those grape
not
leaves
into the
are
pre-made.
Yeah.
Sugar grape leaves
There's
are.
what is on your dog's chest?
She has a little fatty lump.
Like
Okay, so
almost.
I think that we have lost our dog's heart now to Alvin
Alvin.
and Rachel here. Maybe especially Alvin. Macy, our little miniature pincher.
Oh,
Just
she
being
loves
gone,
him.
Gone, girl, gone. But yeah, it's just a little fatty lump. It's okay. The
Okay,
vet said it was
sorry.
cool. No, she's
She's
almost
lovely.
10. Our dogs are getting old.
well, I hope we get a chance to do this more often, because I think there's a lot of value in kind of stretching your brain and not just doing your art, but you know, you don't want to talk about it all the time, but I think certainly getting together and kind of musing upon what you do and why you do it.
It's a cool form of collaboration.
Yeah.
That actually are. You know,
Yeah, it's
pieces.
inspiring and makes me want to do more.
I have a closing point before you wrap up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Who has something opening or something for sale or something coming out soon that they would like to tell anybody about? Alvin, you're first.
Yeah, like I do, but I haven't.
You
It's
have like a
it's
date,
not-
like a set
Yeah, it's
date.
no set date. It's coming soon.
But it's the documentary project that you were talking about? Something
no,
before
that's,
that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
exciting.
I got an instrumental trilogy that.
Okay.
that
You're
I
working on the
finished.
fourth part
Dude.
now, but the trilogy is now done and ready.
Well, all four of them are actually done.
Stop mixing and give it to us already.
So like the first album,
Quadrilogy?
the
Quadrilogy.
yeah the first
Quadrilogy!
Damn.
the first part I'd finish in 2012,
Okay.
and then
Wait,
the second part I
I gave
finished.
birth in 2007.
The
Okay.
The
So
second
did he in a
part-
way if he finished that project that
second part was finished in 2013. Third
Okay.
part was in 15, and that's like that project's. I gone out and promoted the first album, and it's doing well. And then I went back into the studio and started making music.
Mhm.
And I finished the second album, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna take like a week or two off, and then I'll jump into the studio and start mixing this one. Took a couple weeks off, and I just started making more music. And so
Yeah.
I was like, all right, whatever, I'll just keep on doing that then.
Yeah.
Finished the third album, I was like, all right, I'm gonna take like just a week off this time, and then I'll get back into the studio and
Yeah.
start mixing. Yeah, it lasted like 5 days.
Yeah, right.
And then I started making this fourth project, and I just finished this fourth one probably about a half year ago. But the first three are all cohesive. It's one big one big piece.
No, it's really
Cool.
cool.
It's
Wow.
it's an actual trilogy. So
That's
like
awesome.
what it is, it's like it's a day in my life. So the first
Oh.
album is
My dog
Wait.
loved you so much. I
And
can't
she
believe
just
it.
extended her
Yeah,
arm
she
at
did.
"It's a
She's
Day in My
like,
Life."
"Oh."
She like gave you.
Fist bumping you.
100%.
Oh my gosh.
Cute.
So yeah, it's a day of your life. And
yeah. So the first album is me during the daytime, and so it actually has live piano that I play in, along with the rest of the instrumentation.
Wait,
so-
did you grow up playing piano?
Sort of. Yeah. I learned violin first. Then when I moved from Nova Scotia to the States, there wasn't a violin teacher near us.
Mhm.
So I stopped violin and then picked up piano for a couple years. But yeah. So second album is me during the nighttime, and I have terrible case of insomnia, and so it's kind of that whole like dark and things running through your brain 1,000 miles an hour.
Like a surrealist view of the
Yeah.
daytime because you're still awake and running at that
Right,
hour, but
right.
you really shouldn't be.
Yeah. And then the third album is me finally passing the fuck out, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I entered like my favorite part of the day, which is dream time, because
Me too.
I dream basically every day.
Can
Me
anybody
too.
else lucid dream?
Me too. I lucid dream. Yep.
Yeah, a lucid dream.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
It's
awesome.
and I don't even want to go back to real life. And I'm
I
like,
swear to God, no.
I'm like, I feel so bad for my husband because
Once
he
you
does
can
not
control it.
experience it the same way.
Once you can control your dreams,
Nuh-uh.
life is never quite the same.
No.
But Alvin, so where can people find you as an artist and find your work online or like in the world? Somebody's blowing you up right now to buy a piece.
So I'm like sparsely on social media.
Okay.
I don't use Twitter anymore.
Okay.
The Mellowed Yellow
Okay.
on Instagram and Facebook.
The Mellowed Yellow.
Yeah, so it's THAMELLOWED
Okay.
YELLO.
Awesome.
No W.
Okay. Instagram's like I think the best social media platform for artists.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's actually interesting.
That's
Like
so cool.
I've used stories as like a way to give myself deadlines.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Especially for like painting.
Mhm.
So what I do on Instagram is like I'll put up stories of the progress of my painting,
Oh, that's cool.
and so it's like kind of an insight, but it's also like, all right, shit, like I can see people like looking, so I might as well. I gotta
Yeah.
finish this, right? But yeah, like most of my promotion and everything has been just person to person. I've taken sort of the independent hustle that was started out on the West Coast by like Hieroglyphics and Living Legends, and they would go out, on the street with tapes, CDs, and just talk to people, and that's basically what I've been doing
Nice.
for the past little while. That's why I'm not like really on social media. Like I had gotten off social media for a long time, and
Yeah.
I recently just popped back on.
You know what? It's a fantastic tool for
Oh,
artists.
for sure. I can definitely.
If you can separate
definitely tell.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, absolutely, it's great.
So-
Rachel, wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Take
so
it.
soon there's going to be a big rollout to not only promote the trilogy,
Yeah.
but try to get funding as well. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
what me and James went on a road trip through West Virginia. We filmed the road trip through the heart of West Virginia, and that's going to be part of my promotion for this upcoming project.
I'm
Nice.
excited about that. I'm
Awesome.
excited about that. That would be really
Totally.
cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we get some really great footage. We had a GoPro on the front on the car the entire trip. So, and we went down some amazing parts of West Virginia, down some great country roads,
Wow.
and had some lucky accidents. Like at one point, the battery's about dead, and we rolled into this campsite, and we were able to pull right up to the water. I hope I'm not giving too much away, but and there was just some other really cool shots, and
Just
yeah.
felt like gifted, kind
yeah,
of like.
yeah, and it was for me. It
supportive.
was a great trip, and
That's great.
So I was just glad to be part of that, and I'm looking forward to that coming out. Yeah. So Rachel, do you have anything coming up soon, or that
Always.
Always.
Yes.
I'm always coming
Rachel
up.
is a
When-
heavy of
When do you think that
production.
the drawing room?
Okay, I think in January,
Okay.
February. Okay, I want to be like, so I want to like under promise and over deliver.
Sure.
So my goal is like, if I say that in the say March,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Like I mean, ideally I'd say January, February, but let's say March. March for sure. I'll be fine. 2019, early 2019. I'll have a space where people can come and hang out with me and work, and just like they can put their earplugs in, have some coffee, hop into the Wi-Fi, and have some coffee.
I'm gonna ask you
chill
some really
spot.
quick, like basic
Yeah.
questions just to flesh out exactly what the drawing room is. Okay, number
Sure,
one,
yeah.
where's the drawing room located?
1425 Chaplain. I always say
AKA
Chapline.
across from the courthouse. am I
Across
right?
from the courthouse,
Okay.
yeah. I always say
Don't tell me that.
Chapline, and it's like
Uh-huh.
terrible.
It's Chaplain.
It's Chaplain. Okay, so that's totally
Not
why I'm
Chap.
not from Wheeling, because I say Chaplain.
Chaplain.
It's Chaplain. 1425 Chaplain. We're
Okay.
in the, like, it's actually in this weird, like, alley space. So
Mhm.
it's technically on 15th Street Place. If you head up near, like, that scandalous video shop, head up the alley beside the scandalous video shop and the beauty.
Uh-huh.
I like that it's
Um,
tucked away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's back there. And, you know, I really thought, like, at first I was like, oh, I'm going to be back here by myself. It's kind of scary. But there's people walking by there
Yeah.
every day, and I talk to so many different people. And actually, I just realized I left my sign out overnight
Aww.
outside. Oh, shoot.
Should you go on the way home and get it?
I
Okay.
need to.
Here's my
Yeah.
second question for you, Rachel.
Yeah.
I'm someone who doesn't know you or your business at all. I have creative interests, and I hear that this is an open place for artists. I walk in. What's gonna happen?
Well, right now, it'll be really messy because I'm not really organized yet. But hopefully, by the time I actually do open,
But I'm creative, and I'm used to messy, and I'm
okay,
cool
if
with
you're
that.
creative and you're
So
used to
then I
messy,
talk
I'll give
to
you a space to sit and work. Basically, I don't have prices worked out yet.
Are you gonna
by
be
the-
maybe hourly? Or are you gonna be daily? How are you going? to
By
work
by
that
the beginning of the
in?
year, I'll work this out. But I'm thinking like I'll do a minimum, so it won't be hourly, but it might be like a 3-hour segment.
Okay.
You can do a 3-hour
Yeah.
segment or a whole day.
Mhm.
So it'd be like 3 hours for a price, a whole
Yeah.
day for a price,
Yeah.
or a week or a month.
Totally.
And it's going to
Awesome.
be come and go. You'll have a code to enter the business.
Okay. At any hour.
At any hour.
At any hour.
Yeah, you can just.
Oh my god, it's like 24-hour fitness, but for art. That is the most amazing thing.
24-hour
Beautiful.
artness.
You'll have your
It's
own
really
codes
secure
work, open the
business.
business and close the business door. So we'll have door
Wonderful.
codes for anybody who signed up. And yeah, it's like it's such an uber like creative space. So I got that, and then I do have like my leggings store,
Yeah.
which is RGA_apparel.
At Instagram.
That's my
right?
Instagram handle, yeah,
Okay.
RGA_apparel.
And you also have a
and that's on
second
Facebook too.
Instagram, right?
And then I
For
have
art?
and then I have the drawing room 26003, and then I also
Instagram.
have Rachael Goodman art.
88. Am I right?
Is
Or
it-
no? Is it no? That's a different account.
I think it's just
So
Rachael Goodman art. Yeah.
for
And
Instagram.
so I got like 1,000 businesses, but I'm really trying to differentiate because people are like, you cannot have people looking for leggings who come to your art store, and you can't have people who are looking. You know what I mean? So it's like all of
Yes,
it. So I
you
have
can.
3 different.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah. So I have all of my. I'll have all of my stuff. If you
Okay.
don't know, just go to Rachael Goodman 888, and you can find me anywhere.
Just Google Rachael Goodman, get in touch with her, and she will help you
Yeah,
with your artistic
absolutely.
needs. Josh, what do you have coming up? Where can people find your art?
You can find me on Instagram. I have an account on Facebook, but I live on Instagram.
Okay.
I'm Bombtron Art.
But can you spell it really fast for
No.
everybody? Please.
Bombtron Art.
BOMBTRON.
No.
See, I already
Try
screwed
again.
it up, and I'm just trying.
I can't find it. I'm trying to find it right now.
BOMTRONART.
Ah.
That's on the
dig
Insta.
it. Okay.
And
You were totally hard to find, by the
On
way.
Insta.
On the
And
Insta.
saucy about it, but we like that.
so, yeah. So then, what else do I have?
The t-shirts.
December
T-shirts,
December
your lighting.
1st. December 1st. I'm going to be selling my art at the Handmade Holiday.
And December 15th, are you playing a Christmas show?
Right, yeah. So December 1st, I'm going to be selling my art at Handmade Holiday.
Awesome.
And that's going to be
Is
at
that
the
in Wheeling
Artisan
or-
Center,
Okay.
3rd floor of what is that building
Right
called?
above River City, right?
Yeah, right above
Oh,
River City.
so go get a good
And
meal and buy
so I'll
Josh's
be
art.
there. It'll be my personal artwork, and then the stuff I do with my friends Mindy and Bethany called the Mem Squad. We make T-shirts.
MEMSQU.
Yeah, which is also on Instagram, but we're just getting started with that account. And what else? So hopefully Nate will have some time to record us. We would like to do an EP,
We would
and so
love to record
we're not, and we probably won't work it to death. So hopefully it'll be out sooner rather than later.
I
Let's
totally
get it
have.
out.
I totally know you guys. It's so weird.
Oh, do you? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And yeah, and then the Christmas holiday extravaganza.
Bridge and Tunnel.
Bridge and Tunnel,
Collective, right?
a very Bridge and Tunnel Christmas. That's just what I'm calling it.
I thought it was what it was called. It's
No,
beautiful.
but
Love
it's
the title.
great, right?
It's perfect,
That'll be
actually.
December 15th at the Town Gate. It's going to be all of the Bridge and Tunnel Collective's band, all the band members with special guests and sneak peek. We're working on a collaboration with Love and Data.
Yes.
Oh yeah, holla!
It's going to be a lot of
Day,
fun.
holiday. I just heard a song right there.
There you go.
It's a holiday.
Holiday.
Could that not be a dance hit? Anyway.
So what do you guys got coming up?
So December 15th, the Christmas show that's coming up at Town Gate for that deal there, celebrating Santa. 2 originals and hopefully an awesome collab with Weird Lightning. We would love that.
Love
And then
it.
after that, we'll just see what happens. We'll
Good.
just see what happens.
Then 2019.
And then we want to, I think Nate and I kind of want to get more into recording people here. I think that would be a good contribution that we could actually, make to this community. And first off, Weird Lightning, we've got to get them recorded. There are 3 other songs that I can't get out of my head. So I leave them in the
Yeah.
car. It would help me. We should do that.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna.
James, what do you have that's coming out, and where can people find you on social media?
Undependent Films is on Instagram and the Insta
On
and on the
Insta.
Facer.
UN
Yeah.
Independent
Of
Films.
course, the
Dig it.
podcast is
I love
anywhere
how
that
Rachel's
you
going
can.
straight to this as we're talking.
I'm doing it right now.
She's doing it. She's making life happen.
So the podcast is available anywhere that you can find podcasts, and of course, I always promote everything on Instagram and Facebook. The James Wodarcyk Experimental Podcast. Of course, if you're listening to this, you probably already know that. And creatively, I don't know. I'm going to be doing filming the very tunnel.
Ah, yeah.
The Very Bridge and Tunnel
The
Christmas.
Yeah,
Very
I'm going to
Bridge
be
and
filming
Tunnel
that.
Christmas. Which you were telling us a little bit earlier. You're kind of spearheading this new business where you're thinking of recording live bands for YouTube.
Yeah.
Because-
So in fact, we just had a meeting today, and we're thinking about launching a business of basically filming bands, live shows, with the idea that they can get it out quickly to social media, and so give
Something well filmed.
a lot of times when you see a live band in a club, it's an iPhone video that somebody shot, and the quality can be good or bad, and it's maybe not necessarily edited or anything. And so just something, a way to have a nice quality live performance online. And really, this year is going to be about me figuring out my financial freedom. I've been doing handyman work, which is a creative endeavor in itself, and I'm even seeing like the fun of starting a business and all the creative aspects of that, and trying to stay true to what I want out of life. And so it's you want to make money so that you have the freedom to do things.
Yeah.
And I was actually thinking about this today, that when I think about, that's a good, I got a job coming up that's going to pay me well. What excites me about it isn't the fact that I can go out and buy things with it. What I'm buying really with that money is time.
Yes.
So the more money that I
Yes.
make on one of those jobs, the less I have to work in general to make money, the more time I have to delve into all the things I'm interested in. I have 3 motorcycles right now that are in various stages of being built that I would like to finish at some point. I was just bought all the stuff to learn how to paint cars, and I want to do custom paint work.
He's going to pinstripe the crap out of my car.
That's what needs.
What is he?
Yeah, we actually were talking about some ideas of how we
Wait,
could.
Costume cars.
Will you do my little BMW mom car?
Yeah, we could make it. We could
Oh
pimp it out in a
You
classy way.
You should do something
Gracious.
super
That
fun with
We could
it.
do something cool
Or a
too.
minivan.
Or a minivan, yeah.
Yeah, could you please like flame through the side of our minivan?
What I-
Amazing. Beautiful.
What I enjoy the most about
Unicorn van. Yeah, don't let our kids make the design.
No, it's a narwhal if it's a van.
You're
I do
right.
what I like about
Oh, that'd be
automotive and as an artist is taking a vehicle that's not necessarily considered cool and just tweaking it just a little bit and knowing when to stop to just make it stand out but not be ridiculous.
Yeah.
And just usually there's just that little bit that you have to do.
Customized, but not crazy.
Yeah, to make it cool, and it's not a radical custom, but it just rolls down the street a little sweeter than it did before. And lately, I've been really getting into my fermentations. So I've been kombucha, kimchi.
Wait, what? You're making fermentation?
Yeah, he's making his own kombucha and his own kimchi.
I just started my own
I
sourdough
have a Korean
starter.
grandmother, so like the kimchi spoke to my soul.
And anything once I started looking up some of the recipes for the stuff that I'm already making to try to figure out how to do them better. So I'm making this stuff called kvass,
Yeah.
which is fermented beets. I'm making a caramel kvass. I've got ginger bug brewing to make ginger beer or ginger ale, depending on what you want to make. Sauerkraut, kimchi, water kefir, milk kefir, kombucha.
You just have all these cultures in your basement?
I have them all over the house because you have to keep them separate.
That's kind of disgusting.
I don't know. I don't find it good. And then I've
You
also,
think it's beautiful? That's fine.
I
I honor that in you. That's
it's
cool.
alive and it's cool because these things do kind of come alive.
Yeah, they're
and
they're
it's-
life force.
And it's a different.
And it's energy you're entering into your house.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you're not whereas you cook a meal and then you eat it. These are projects that are long term.
You cook a meal and
They
then you
are.
you stir it in your belly.
Well, but if you're
I love like
you can talk to
probiotics.
food-
So
no.
well, I guess what
you
I'm saying
don't
is
understand. Like
To
you
a
don't understand me.
deep
I
molecular
love like
level.
I'm a big.
Would you
Sure.
please
Fermented
tell
person.
James now the joke that you first told your husband Jay when you met him that like hooked him on you?
I don't remember.
A guy goes to the doctor.
Oh yeah. Okay. So here's the joke. All right.
People
So, guy goes to the doctor and he's like, I'm not feeling right. And actually, no, I have to take it back. Okay, the guy goes to the doctor and he's got like carrots coming out of his nose, and he's got green beans in his ears, and he's got like noodles coming out of his eyes. And he's like, I'm not feeling right. And the doctor takes one look at him and says, you're not eating right. And that's the joke. And I delivered it terribly, but that's the joke.
So I enjoy being able to make these things. I guess what I was saying is a lot of people are into cooking, but if you make a meal and then you eat it, it's kind of within that same time span it's done. Whereas the things that I'm making, they actually, a good batch of kombucha could take up to 30 days. So you get, like, when you make like a fresh batch of sauerkraut, the next day you start to see it bubble. And so there's that daily progress of it a little bit at a time. So it helps me work on my patience.
Can I have some?
And your
of your
precision.
Yeah, I had everything ready to bring here. And I forgot, I left it on the counter, which, because it's fermented, it's not going to spoil. So and then I also have this weird thing where I have all these non-traditional houseplants. So I have a huge pineapple that I grew from a pineapple that I ate. And I have a big avocado plant that I started from about 50 avocado pits that, that's how hard it was to
You
get
don't know
one.
which one it was?
Well, yeah.
You just put like a whole bunch of, you put 50 avocado pits in one plant?
No. The thing with growing avocados is it's really hard. So I had to try to start 50 of them roughly to get one plant that's survived the last 3 years. And then I have dozens of lemon trees because I can't stop growing lemon trees. I gave Bethany
You like 6 of them.
6 of them last week. I have 12 of them sitting on the counter at home. I've got one that touches the ceiling, and so I'm kind of all over the place. But I've been channeling my creativity more into craftsmanship and less into fine art, I guess. Alvin talked about playing some music this year, and I'm really looking forward to that happening. But yeah, I don't know. Right now it's all wide open, and I have zero focus as far as any one thing, and I'm okay with that because that's the part in a creative person's life that you hit sometimes where you're just cast away from the dock and you just float through the ocean until you stumble into another body of land somewhere, and when that happens, it happens. But it's okay to be adrift and figure it out. So
As long as you're open, it'll come.
yeah.
Right?
And until then,
It'll come through you.
keep doing the podcast and all that stuff.
And thank you for doing the podcast.
Thank you for having us over and for coming up with the idea and arranging this and for the fabulous meal.
You're welcome. Come get some leftovers.
Yeah, that's what I was
Kitchen,
just
Come
thinking.
wrap some stuff
When do we
up
start
here.
recording?
Yeah, so we're
Tomorrow,
gonna get,
Josh,
so we're
this
gonna
is
get
the
started here
practice.
in a minute.
We're gonna just like warm up today.
Well, on behalf of Amber and Nathan and Alvin and Rachel and Joshua, or Josh,
And
Whichever
Macy
you
and
like.
Munson.
and the puppies. Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you everybody for participating.
Thank
Go out and
you.
create something and do some
Yes.
art and support art and enjoy your life.
Absolutely.
Until the next time,
Oh.
see ya!
Good night.
Good night.
Hustle, 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 hustle.
Do you want the finer things? Girls, gold and diamond rings. Do you gotta build your muscles strong? It's a game, you go and get your hustle on. Got everybody knocking on your front door. Yeah, just remember once you get what you want, you're only gonna want more. What will make your wallet full can also make your soul hollow. Whoa. What will make your wallet full can also make your soul hollow. Working all night to pay our dues, dreaming of the day that you'll be living the life. Now your bank is full and life is good, living today just like you should. But don't you see?
We hope you have enjoyed the following presentation. Note that no samples were harmed in the making of this body of work. Honor, love, support, and always be true.